The race for the top five is probably the only thing that is left in the Premier League in terms of competitiveness. The title race is coming to an end. The relegation battle was over in February. It is now only basically the race for the top five, and it really is interesting and heating up with what 6, 7 games to go. Let's dive straight into it. What a weekend of football it was. So we kick off with Saturday. You had Nottingham Forest, who sit in third place, dropping points to Everton at home. You had Aston Villa beating Southampton by 3 goals to nil. Manchester City coming back from 2 goals down to beating Crystal Palace by 5 goals to 2. And then on Sunday's fixtures, you had Chelsea 2-0 down to Ipswich. They did come back, but it was only a 2-2 draw. And you had Manchester United getting slapped up by Newcastle. And they are certainly in the race, Newcastle, for them European spots. If we look at the Premier League table, this is the table now. It is changing game by game. So let's dive into it. So Nottingham Forest currently sit on 57 points, Newcastle 56, Man City 55, and Chelsea and Villa also on 54. It's certainly within touching distance of all of each other. And obviously, the fifth spot now has also been confirmed. It is a correlation spot. Um, I'm going to give you my predictions on why I think certain teams will make it. So obviously, it's going to go Liverpool, then Arsenal, then obviously from third to seventh, it is really, really close. In my opinion, I think out of those teams, do you want to know who I think has the best chance? It is Newcastle. For me, I said it when they won that League Cup, that is going to spur them fully on to go and get Champions League football. And we're going to have a look at their fixtures from now to the end of the season. And for me, I think they've got winnable games. Crystal Palace, I expect them to be at home. That is going to be an absolute classic. I can't wait for this one. Aston Villa, Newcastle. That's going to be a banger in terms of the race for the Champions Leagues. Then obviously I expect them to beat Ipswich. I expect them to probably at least take a point at Brighton. That Chelsea game is going to be massive. So if you think about it, Newcastle's games from now to the end of the season, there's only 2 games where there's jeopardy, and that is Chelsea at home and Aston Villa away. And the form that inconsistency and the form that Chelsea are on, I expect Newcastle to probably win that game. I expect them to probably maybe beat Arsenal because they're probably on the beach. By that point, they could be in a Champions League semi or even at least a final. Or if they're out, the team is comfortably well on the beach. And then obviously Everton last game of the season, which I expect them to beat. And then obviously, if you actually look at it, they have got a game in hand over Nottingham Forest, so they actually can take over them by 2 points. And obviously, they can build a nice bit of a gap between the Chelsea and the Villa and the Man Cities, who are left to be battling it out. If you go to Manchester City's fixtures from now to the end of the season, they've got Forest, obviously in the FA Cup still, in terms of a trophy they can win. But Man City have got winnable games. I expect them to probably near enough win all them games. I'm going to be honest with you. People, I know they're inconsistent and then they are not good, but Man City just gets over the line no matter what. They have experience in that squad to be able to get over the line. You saw the Kevin De Bruyne masterclass that we did see on Saturday, dragging his team from 2 goals down and getting over the line. And to be honest with you, I'd expect them to beat Everton. That Villa game is going to be massive at the Etihad. And then obviously Wolves, I expect them to beat. Southampton, I expect them to beat. And then if they can, Fulham, by that point, they're probably going to be on the beach. I doubt it. They're going to be back in the race for Conference League or anything like that. And then the same with Bournemouth. So I think Man City, again, they've got decent fixtures. For me, if you're a Chelsea fan, it ain't looking good because I think you've got the toughest out of the lot. You've got Fulham, Everton, Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United, and Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest, by that point, they could still potentially need points, and Forest away is not going to be easy. I expect them to beat Man U. Newcastle is going to be a tough one. Liverpool is obviously still going to be tough, even by that point when we won the league. And then obviously Everton and Fulham. But they're just too inconsistent, dropping points. And you look in their previous results, that they'll go on a bit of a run, then they'll lose a couple. Chelsea, so they're just way too inconsistent for me to get those spots. Villa, these are their fixtures. They've got it's an okay. If they can beat Newcastle, that is an absolute massive result. I think they have to beat Newcastle, in my opinion, to get into that spot, because by that point, there's only really there's only 4 games to go, and that's only 12 points available. You probably expect them to win the last 4. You probably expect them to beat Fulham, Bournemouth, Tottenham. It's those two that are the bankers. If they can take at least maybe 4 points from that, then I think they're dead certain to get it, in my opinion. Nottingham Forest, let's have a look at their fixtures. Again, they've got fixtures where you'd expect them to probably win. Tottenham away, look, they're getting battered by everyone. So Nottingham Forest, even though they have lost a couple of games in a row and dropped a couple of points, but I do expect them to bounce back and probably beat Spurs. Man City is obviously the FA Cup, and then Brentford, I expect them to probably win. Palace away is obviously going to be tough. Leicester, by that point, they're going to be gone, so they're going to be comfortably on the beach, getting ready for the Championship. Forest, absolute dead certain 3 points. Same with West Ham, and then obviously the Chelsea game. For me, they just need to win those next couple of games. And if they can get to that Chelsea game, maybe only dropping 1 game in there, you'd expect them to probably get top 4. So my Champions League predictions, for me, it's going Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle third. I think that game and then just going to propel them. And again, it's looking like I was proven right. When you win, for some reason, when you win that Carabao Cup, it just propels you to do well the following, like for the rest of the season. Look how many times Man City won it and they went on to win the title. When Liverpool won it, they went on to get to a Champions League final. They pushed even Man City further in the title race. They also won the FA Cup that season, so it does propel you on to potentially win more trophies, and obviously league positions as well. So I am going to go with Liverpool, Arsenal. I'm going to go Newcastle, Manchester City in 4th, Nottingham Forest to get 5th. I think Villa will come 6th, and Chelsea in 7th. So unfortunately for Chelsea fans, I do think if you got to win that, you got to win the Conference League, because for me, if you don't, you're going to be back in the Conference League again. So if you win the Conference League, you will be getting Europa League, which isn't too bad. And I feel like there is a foundation and a building there to potentially build with Enzo Maresca. If you can improve the squad, get a better striker, get some more overall quality, get some European quality in there. Players from like that played in the Champions League, the Europa League, experience to get you into those positions. I think that's going to be key for them in the summer. And I know they've had injuries, and Palmer hasn't hit the heights as last season. Still a great player, of course. But that's my prediction. So I'm going to run over again. I'm going to go Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle. Hey, do you think Newcastle could catch Arsenal? Because they do play Arsenal. Can you imagine if Newcastle comes 2nd? I mean, what's Arsenal's fixtures? Liverpool, Newcastle. Now, Arsenal surely won't bowl that. Yeah, I'm gonna go Liverpool, Arsenal, not Newcastle, Manchester City, Nottingham Forest to get fifth, Villa will get Europa League, and Chelsea in seventh. Chelsea, I do think will go on to win the Europa League. They've still got Real Betis in there, who's a good side. And Aston Villa, look, it looks like they are going to be going out the Champions League as it stands to Paris Saint-Germain, unless they can come back at Villa Park. But if they can go and win potentially an FA Cup and still get Europe, it's 100% still a successful season, and getting Champions League quarters as well. You come up against one of the best sides in Europe right now in Paris Saint-Germain. There's no shame in going out to them. My team did it as well. So they are my Champions League top 5 predictions. The race is certainly on, and for me now, there's a couple of teams in there that obviously do all end up playing each other. So you've got to win your other games, because by that point, that game could be like a must win, for example. Do you know what I mean? Like that Forest Chelsea game could potentially be like a last day decider. So you need to be winning your games up until then, in my opinion. But that is my top 5 predictions for the Champions League. Make sure you are smashing a like on the channel and you're subscribing to the channel to up to date with the latest football news, Liverpool content, and overall football stuff. Take care and goodbye.